Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Mountaineer Locker Room. Then and now, I'm Greg Chris, along with Frank Fear. We appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. We ask that you like and subscribe on YouTube. That helps us keep this kind of thing going on. Frank, we're here again, excited about our guest tonight. We got another good guest. We think it's going to be a great show. And just talking to him in the preliminary stages here, it is going to be a great show. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And I know folks are going to be excited to hear from KJ Harris, Mountaineer great. What a running back he was, and wasn't on the scene long, but he made a definite impression while he was on the scene. And we got other things to talk about too, basketball teams, and so I think some other things as well. Soccer teams doing great. We want to mention those things before we get rolling into KJ Harris. We'll talk a little bit about those. So Frank, I'm going to toss it over to you. Let's get started with your thoughts on what's going on in the Mountaineer world.
Well, you'll see on the crawler down there, and most people know, women had a great. Started off a little bit. They really came back in the second half and did away with Pitt. And we know that the men beat UMass last week, which I think was a great thing because we lost last year, as you know, to UMass, and we turned that around, and we've got it's a doubleheader week with Pitt. The men are playing at Pitt on Friday night, and that'll be another indication. And you were mentioning before the show, folks really don't have a take yet, at least the analysts, on how good this Mountaineer men's basketball team can be. So playing against Pitt will go a long way. The women are playing on Friday night too. They're playing against Texas A&M at home. What's interesting about Texas A&M is that surprisingly they got off to a rough start. They lost their first game to Texas A&M Corpus Christi, a branch school, and then just barely beat University of Texas San Antonio. Mountaineer women will be a big favorite again. But and I think, not to jinx them, but I think the women have an opportunity to go into the Big 12 undefeated, and we'll just keep our fingers crossed with respect to the men. Although this next game against Pitt is probably the biggest game other than Temple before the Big 12 series. And let's not forget the soccer, as you see at the bottom there. They're playing tonight against Kentucky in the Sun Belt semis. They're guaranteed to get into the NCAA, but of course they want to do that as the Sun Belt champion. We'll keep our fingers crossed, and I'll be watching my handheld. But your thoughts about the men and women?
Well, I know the women. I've talked to a few people that's been attended the games. Exciting to watch, just like they were last year. Defense just very aggressive and really get after folks. And two or three people that I've talked to that's been to the game said that they look forward to watching them again because they're so much fun to watch. And I kind of get the same feel when it comes to the men's team. Watched them the other night against UMass, and they're just a fun team to watch. They're disciplined. They run great offense, a lot of movement. Defensively, they really get up in people's shirts with them and really play hard defense. And they're athletic, they're shooters. They're just a fun team to watch. And I think, like you said, beating UMass. I mean, and most times, Frank, this is really the last couple of years a different era in basketball. I think football eventually will be this way, but in basketball, there's so much parity now. That I don't think you could look at any teams like a UMass or anybody else and say they're a pushover because all of them have good players now. And, the portal has made it possible for teams right there on the cusp to get better players, a couple of anyway, to make them better. So I think there's more parity in college basketball than ever before. And, I heard a guy say last year they were talking about, problem with the NCAA basketball tournament is you can't name more than 2 or 3 players it's in the tournament from any team, and basically these teams aren't any good. And excuse me, my thought on that was can't name players because you got a whole different roster what you had last year, and that's the same with West Virginia. They got a completely different roster from what they had last year, and it's going to be better, but I don't think anybody can really gauge just yet how good they're going to be. And I think you mentioned we were an underdog going into Pitt. I think that's probably why. I just don't think they have enough info to go on yet. And, I really think when you watch these teams on a national level, Duke, Kentucky last night, you're seeing that, these one and done players, you still see them, but it doesn't always translate into big wins, championships, or anything like that. Calipari showed that at Kentucky. Now I think it's Duke actually that looks that way. It was an awful good basketball team, but you don't know how good they're going to perform. It takes a lot of these teams to gel. Chemistry, I think, between players is a real thing, and I think once that chemistry plays out, that's what determines how good and how bad you are, assuming you have talent, which I assume most of them do. So yeah, big win, and I think any win is a big win, especially for for WVU trying to right that ship. The basketball program kind of fell in some hard times last year or so, and I think this is a great step in getting the anchors down, getting the ship in the right direction. So good for them. Soccer, I'm not going to lie and say I pay a lot of attention. I don't know anything about it. I've tried to learn the rules and just can't seem to get it figured out. And I think I told you my story about doing the soccer game on NRN one night. He asked me to do one. I said, I don't know a whole lot about it, but I'll give it a shot. And I had a guy who's was a high school soccer coach for years, a good friend of mine, come help me. And of course, he knew all about the game. So he's explaining everything to me before the game starts, and he's explaining the kickoff, how it starts. I'm like, oh, okay. I think I got it figured out. Well, when they got ready to kick off, they kicked it backwards. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I must have missed something here. Why did we kick it backwards? So he's trying to explain it to me while we're on there. So I was like, listen, you take over. I'll just chime in whenever I feel like it's necessary. In 2 hours of that soccer game, I never chimed in once because I didn't have a clue what was going on. So,
yeah.
But I do know that our men's and women's soccer team both are good.
That's right.
And, I think, and I saw where they were playing for a chance to play in the championship of the Sun Belt. I think they won the regular season Sun Belt.
Yes, they did.
I did read that somewhere. So,
yeah,
exciting times, man.
Yeah, but you do know basketball, and here's a name here to watch on Friday night for Pitt, and the statistics blew my mind away. A fellow who talk about the portal transferred from URI, University of Rhode Island, to Pitt.
Yep.
His name is Ishmael Leggett. Leggett. This guy is a guard transferred in. He's shooting 68% from the field.
Yeah.
And he's scoring 20 points a game, and he's the leading rebounder too. Pitt doesn't have a center really, and so they're a guard-heavy team. So, but still, it'll be interesting. That will be an important game. And I'll tell you, you really have to give Coach DeVries a lot of credit. He assembled very quickly a very good team. And there were transfers from Illinois, and his own son, who's I saw the other day, he's on the all transfer list.
Yeah.
At ESPN. So just tremendous. But talk about tremendous. We've got a guest tonight whatever fans know about KJ Harris, whatever you know about KJ, you're going to learn a lot more. It's just an incredible life and experience he's had and so electrifying. We've got video of that great game that opened up the 2004 season. But I'll leave it up to you, and we'll introduce our guest for tonight, KJ Harris.
All right, KJ Harris. There he is.
How we doing?
Welcome to the show, KJ. We appreciate you.
Well, more than glad. Welcome to be here.
Well, we of course we talked a little bit before the show, but I know the thing that comes to every Mountaineer fan's mind when they hear the name KJ Harris is 338 yards against East Carolina. And a lot of people saying the same thing I told you I was saying that night was, who is this guy? Man, I got to find out who this guy is. And it turned out to be one heck of a running back for WVU. But real quickly, for our viewers' sake and mine as well, selfishly, I want to know what your thoughts were that night that you racked up that huge game.
Well, the true story behind that game, man, a teammate of mine, Marquell Henderson, wide receiver, we was in the training room before the game getting taped up, and he just didn't look excited to play. And one of the reason why he had just had a newborn daughter back home, and he wanted to actually go home and be with his daughter.
Wow.
So he was kind of down that he wasn't there. And we were talking about it. We were sitting next to each other getting taped up, and I was like, man, this is good motivation to go out there and have a good game. And he was like, yeah. I said, you know what? I'll do it for you. I'm gonna go do so. I said, man, I might just break a record today. And I was just joking, I was just trying to get his mind in the mood to play the game. And behold, what happened the rest of the night. And I was kind of pissed off too, because to start the game off, we went out on offense, and Coach Rod didn't send me out with the first team for the first two possessions, and I was kind of
That's right.
I wasn't yeah, because they didn't tell me they were going to do that. And Pac-Man even came over. He was like, "What's going on?" I was like, "Man, I don't know." And I just remember when finally Coach Rod said, "KJ, you in?" I remember I looked back and I said, "I'm not coming out either." So they I don't know, maybe it was a strategy for them to kind of get maybe it was a strategy for them to try to to get me in a plane, in a mood, because I was the guy on the team who joked around a lot. I wasn't a rah guy as far as in the locker room before a game, getting serious and banging my head on the locker room, whatever, how guys get pumped up for game. I danced around, joked, listen to music and all that kind of stuff. So to some people, that might not be, they didn't think I was ready to play, but I'm always ready to play, man. I'm always ready to play. So I think that's what they did to fuel me up, to kind of piss me off. They got me upset before the game. So it worked.
Hey,
Oh, that's,
KJ,
that's,
let's show the video of that game for people who haven't seen it. And one of the nice things about this video, we go back a long way in Mountaineer then and now, Mountaineer Locke Room then and now. And some of the videos we show, they're grainy and you can't. But this is a good video, and so let's show that. And here you go. You were incredible. Talk us through this.
Yeah. I mean, one thing about the offense, the spread offense, I loved it. I prefer to run out of the eye a lot, and that was one of the things that Coach Rod and Coach McGee, they let me have my input on that. I didn't mind running the zone out of the shotgun, but it's kind of really predictable when you're in the shotgun and I'm standing next to Rasheed on the left or right. There's a 95% chance I got to cross his face to get the ball. So teams, when long as it was in the eye, it was, they had, there was a step behind. So we actually ran a lot of our zone runs when I was in the game out of the eye. We ran some out of the shotgun as well, but for the most part, when I really wanted the ball and get downhill, we put that thing. Rasheed went up on the center, as you can see, and there it is.
nice.
Just incredible.
Yeah.
When I look at this, KJ, it reminds me of a professional golfer who's hit 6 birdie putts in a row, or a basketball player who's hit 10 threes in a row. I mean, that is what you're showing there. It's like there's nobody out there except you, and yet there are a lot of guys out there in addition to you. But
Right.
it's just pure joy to watch.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, one thing about it, I just remember from the game that I always told my offensive line, you handle those 4 big guys with their hand on the ground, and I do the rest. Pretty soon they'll come up and fly up there in the first quarter for things like that to make that tackle. But pretty soon they're going to get tired of doing it. It's kind of like Derrick Henry. They can run it there, and those guys, I laugh so much watching football these days when first drive of the game or anything like that, they come and make a big hit and they jump up and they did something. And I just say, do that the whole game and see how you feel. So as you can see, Derrick Henry, a lot of his big runs come in the second half, fourth quarter a lot. Guys get tired of that. They can come up there with that adrenaline's pumping early in the game, but it ain't going to be pumping the whole game when you got 240 plus coming down the hill.
So you were quite the baseball player as well. I don't know how many people know that.
Yeah.
Take us back a little bit and talk about your time, in high school, when you came out of high school, what you did in high school, played, and then when you came out and how all this transpired. We've got some of the background info, but we'd rather hear it from you.
Yeah, I mean, growing up in Florida, man, I'm the oldest of 5, the only boy, have triplet sisters, and my mother, she don't like when I say it, but I'll tell her it's the truth. Um, you know, Having a house full of girls. I was played sports in the neighborhood along with all the guys, and things like that. Throw up tackle. We played football. We played baseball in the yard. We played everything. But my mom had them triplet girls, and it was chaotic in my house. And I remember, and I just remember I was 10. They was 10. They was born. I was 10, and I wasn't playing any recreational sports yet at the time. Just things in the neighborhood. And when them girls came home, and it was making bottles and ironing clothes and just trying to do hair, put a hair in a ponytail, and um, my sisters, I have all. I give them credit for all the athletic ability I have because I had to do something to get out of that house. And it started with a relative, my godbrother, started inviting me to play little league baseball, and it was just one sport after another. I had to do something to get out of the house to not be home with those girls, and that's when my athletic career took off. I'm telling you. So yeah, it was just one sport. I didn't care what it was. You made up a sport, I was playing it. As long as I didn't have to be home, I was playing it. So, like I said, I give all the credit to them because if it weren't for them, who knows? I probably would have got into sports, but not as early as I did, at that time. But yeah, growing up, played every sport: football, baseball, basketball. Ran track in high school. Um, Quick story: in high school, baseball coach. I played little league and things like. I probably still had a little league home run record too, in my little league. But played baseball in high school. Like my high school baseball coach, he kept getting me trying to come out since the sophomore year, and I kept telling him, "Yeah, coach, I'm gonna come out," and then wouldn't go out, and then finally my senior year, I got into a car accident. Second week of basketball season, which I went through the windshield and I tore the ligaments in my finger and it had to be in a cast. So that ended my basketball season, my senior year. So finally, the baseball coach came and I was like, well, when the doctor finally released me, it was the first week of basketball in the playoffs. So I knew I was going to go back on the team and jump right back in the, in there being, it was the first week of the playoffs and baseball was just starting. So I was like, you know what? I've been sitting out all this time. I have to do something. I might as well just go ahead and play baseball full time. And my baseball coach since my sophomore year kept telling me, man, you come out and play, I get you drafted. You come out and play, I get you drafted. And I was like, yeah, 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 yeah. But baseball really wasn't, I was more excited to play basketball and football, of course. And participated on the track team. Didn't go to practice. Just show up for the track meets, go out there and win the track meets, win the long jump. One long jump all 4 years of high school. My senior year, like I said, then I went out there and played baseball. Um, Still ran track. Won state again in track while I was playing baseball. And we had a kid on my team by the name of Brett Groves, who was a hell of a baseball player. Played on the junior Olympic team. As a sophomore, won bronze medal. So a lot of the scouts was coming out to our games because they was there to see him. So if it kind of wasn't for him being on our team, I probably got overlooked a little bit in baseball. But them coming to see him and seeing this raw kid holding the bat, knuckles not aligned, I'm just hitting routine ground balls to shortstop and beating them out to first. If you had to go 3 steps to your right, I was beating throw out. I would get on first, and my coach would stand on third, and he'll hold up 2 fingers, and that was basically telling me I had 2 pitches to get to third, and if I didn't get to third in 2 pitches, then I had to take signals. So things like that, man. And next thing, how behold, I got drafted. So yeah, I went to play baseball for 3.5 years, and just got bored with it, man. And I started to tell that story in the next part. So yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
What an athlete! My goodness,
yeah.
that's pretty impressive. And your time in baseball, you spent what 3 4 years in
Yeah, so I
professional
got
baseball.
drafted in '97. I got drafted in the 10th round, and rookie ball, advanced rookie ball, play A ball. I played up in West Virginia. I was in the Appalachian League. I was in Pulaski, Virginia.
Oh yeah,
Played in Bluefield. Played in Princeton. They
yeah,
had the Orioles and the Rays. I think the Rays back then
yep,
just had
yep,
started their farm system.
yep.
Played all through. Played in all up in the South Atlantic League. Played in Delmarva, Hagerstown, Maryland, Martinsville, Potomac. I played all up through here. So I've been up here back in the late '90s, early 2000s. So yeah, and just being on a road trip, 8 damn men. Anything about minor league baseball, man, if you know, it is a grind.
Yeah.
142 games, bus rides, long bus rides, sleeping in motels, not hotels, motels, motel sixes and super eights, four to a room. Coming after the games, on a road trip, late night, we play at 7 o'clock. Get by the time we shower and get back to the hotel, it's almost midnight. Only thing open, the Waffle House next to your hotel. So man, I've Waffle House, man. I mean, I've more than truckers. I mean, we ate at Waffle House more than truckers. So sitting on a long road trip one summer, and just remember watching ESPN in the hotel, and they was doing a college preview of conference by conference each day, and they were showing the guys who were gonna have breakout seasons, and they started showing a lot of guys from Tampa. They started showing. I was watching, and they were showing, the Miami Hurricanes, and they were talking about them having a breakout season. And we had a guy from Tampa on that team. We had Kenny Kelly used to play on that team too, also a baseball player from Tampa. But Andrew Williams, a good friend of mine, he was on Miami's defense, and they was talking about him having, having a big times, just having a breakout season that year. On the Florida Gators with Rashae Caldwell and Darrell Jackson, the wide receivers from Tampa as well. And they were showing just so many guys from Tampa, and I was just like, man, I played against all those guys or with them, and I just got in my feelings, and I was like, man, I think I want to go back and play some football. And baseball, if anybody know, being young, I mean, 18, 19 years old out of high school, um, if I probably just played baseball, the passion of it would have been there. But I played everything, man. And like I said before we became on the show, basketball is my favorite sport. I love basketball. I got fined a lot in baseball because I would go to the gym to play basketball before games, and they found out I was playing basketball. It got to the point where they just said, you know what? Finding them is not going to do anything. We're just going to let them play. If you get hurt, you're in trouble. And I said that was it. So it got to the point where my coaches used to come watch me play basketball, and things like that. I used to, bet money that I couldn't do a certain dunk, and I could. I had a 42.5-inch vertical, so they were like, I bet you can't do this. I bet you $10 you can't do this. So yeah, I had fun taking their money doing that stuff.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow, that's that. And those minor league teams you mentioned, yeah, I remember seeing them all.
Oh
And,
yeah.
used to go down to Pulaski and watch. My sister lives in Pulaski, and we go down and watch the Pulaski Braves all the time. So, I remember all those teams.
Yeah.
Well, so you decide you want to go back and play some football.
Yes, I did.
How was it that you end up going back to WVU?
So I came home in the summer. At the end of the year, I came home, and I knew I was going to have to, at that time, the test score, being able to take the test to qualify to go back to school, wasn't no time frame for me to do that. So for me to go back to school right away, I had to go to junior college. So I went back to my high school and seeked out help from. He wasn't my current football coach, but I played against him in middle school, and he was the head football coach at my high school, and we were good friends as well. So he helped me. We went into the video room, and we found a couple of videotapes back then, VCR tapes,
Right. Yep.
and we was able to find like 4 games. We found like 4 games of mine, and we put together. It was like I remember exactly. It was like a 4-minute and 58-second highlight tape, and we put together a quick highlight tape. And my plan coming out was, Coach, look, I want to go to junior college. I want to go to the sorriest school so I can stand out. And I was going to try to go to the NFL in the supplemental draft out of junior college. So I was like, man, I don't want to go to a good school. I need to be seen right now because I was a little older, So I was like, man, I want to make sure I can be seen and see me do things against a good team, be on a sorry team where they just going to give me the ball all game. And he gave me a bunch of recommendations. So we sent my videotape out to about 10 schools. And all 10 schools called back on Friday and offered me a scholarship. And the very one school that I wanted to go to, the coach asked me, well, can you go out and do some videos of you doing drills now? And I was like, I just came out of baseball, second in the league in stolen bases behind Rafael Furcal. And you want to see me do what? So he was like, yeah, I just can't just give you a scholarship like that. And I don't know what you look like or doing right now. I said, okay, no problem. Coach, who they play first game of the season? He was like, Garden City Community College. I said, call that coach and tell him I'm coming to Garden City. And that's what I did. I went to Garden City, played against Dodge City Community College, was the school I wanted to go to. That coach didn't want to offer me the scholarship, and yeah, he ate his words first game of the season. I think I had like 14 carries, 157 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So yeah, and I remember I shook his hand after the game and I said, Coach, you still want to see me do drills? Well, you got a whole film you can watch now.
Got plenty of video to check me out.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So after junior college, then you hit the road to Morgantown. Let's
it wasn't that easy. No, it wasn't that easy.
Let's hear what happened next.
Coming out of junior college, it was time to transfer, and Nick Saban was actually at Michigan State. Had just took the job at LSU. So Michigan State was recruiting me, not Ohio State, but Oklahoma. Kind of, I was in Kansas, so a lot of that Big 12 schools, Oklahoma State, Texas, and Kansas State, and Indiana, all those schools there. I want to go to Miami. Miami is where I committed to out of high school. And so as I was doing my math at the time, I was looking around. I'm like, man, Miami got Willis McGahee, Frank Gore. They had Jared Payton Jr. And I'm like, man, I really can't go back there. I'm gonna have to really, even though I knew I can go and play, I just knew it was going to be tough trying to come in as transferring when those guys already been established there. Um, Kansas State had Darren Sproles, and I was like, oh, he's a small guy, I can beat him out. But I'm like, I don't want to go to Kansas. They purple. I didn't like purple. And it came down to like Oklahoma State, and Texas. Well, I knew Cedric Benson was a Heisman candidate, so I knew I wasn't really going to get a chance there. Oklahoma had a little running back by the last Griffin, so I was like, okay, you know what, I might be able to go there. But thank God I didn't, because Adrian Peterson came later. In Oklahoma State. So I really was up in the air. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go to Michigan State. Coach Bobby had took over for Nick Saban. He stayed and he became the head coach. And I was like, you know what, I think I'm gonna go to Michigan State. And so I called Daryl Jackson, who's in Seattle, my god brother, and I said, hey man, he was like, why don't you go to West Virginia? I said, huh? He's like, why don't you go to West Virginia? Coach McGee's at West Virginia. And for you to know, Coach McGee coached me in high school. He coached me back here in Tampa my freshman year at Tampa Catholic. So he's the first coach I played for. So he took the job back then, University of South Florida, which is USF, started a football program. In my senior year of high school, he left Tampa Catholic to become on the coaching staff at USF. So I thought that's why I knew him that before I went to play baseball. When I went to play baseball, he was a coach in the USF. So at the time when I was coming out of Garden City and ready to transfer, I assumed he was still at USF. And to me, USF wasn't a D1. They were like 1AA maybe still or something like that. I just know they won the big times. They wasn't big enough for me. And I was like, no, I don't want to go to USF. I thought he was still there. But then Daryl told me, he said, no, Coach McGee's at West Virginia now. I said, oh, really? He said, yeah. I said, oh. So I can go to West Virginia. They play Miami, and so I remember they had this shelf with all the university programs on there, and they happened to have a West Virginia book on the stand. And I put my right hand to God. I grabbed that book. I opened up that book, and it randomly opened up to the page with the coaches. And I opened the book up to Coach McGee and his family. And I was like, it was meant for me to go to West Virginia. So I remember I put that phone call in. I called her. I looked in the front of the book, got the phone over to the football office. I called. I asked Miss Lori, picked up the phone, who's still there now. I asked her to transfer me to Coach McGee's office. She transferred me to his office. He happened to be in his office. He answered the phone, and I said, "Oh man, Coach McGee, you won't believe who this is." And he was like, "Who is this?" I said, "Coach, man, you told me I was the greatest athlete you ever coached in high school." And he paused for a minute. I said, "Come on, Coach, don't think of nobody else if it's not true." And he said, "KJ." I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh man, how you doing? How you doing?" I'm like, "I'm good." Coach is like, "Man, what you been up to?" I was like, "Coach, he's like, how's baseball?" I said, "I ain't playing baseball no more, Coach." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Man, I'm at Garden City Community College playing football and I'm ready to transfer." And he said, "KJ, are you serious?" I'm like, "Yeah, Coach, I'm ready to transfer." And he looked on the computer real quick and he said, "Oh my gosh." He's like, "Oh, you want to come here?" I said, "Coach, do you want me to come to West Virginia?" He just screamed out, "Hell yeah, I want you to come to West Virginia." I said, "Coach, I call my schools right now. I tell them I'm not coming. I'm coming to West Virginia." He was like, "KJ, hold on 1 second." He put me on hold and he went to Coach Rod's office. And then he put me back on the phone. He transferred the call and he said, "You there?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Coach, remember that kid I had in high school that you came down and you saw and you asked me about him? Coach Rod, when I was in high school, my first high school football game I played against was against Sean King, which is the quarterback. He went to Gibbs High School over in St. Pete. Coach Rod at the time was at Tulane. He was the quarterback coach. He was there to recruit Sean King, and I played against him my freshman year because Sean King was a senior, and I think I put up almost 200 yards against them on like 12 carries and 2 touchdowns. And Coach McGee reminded him because I guess he asked him like, "Where's that freshman running back kid you had?" And he was like, "Oh, he's playing baseball, things like that." So when Coach McGee told Coach Rod that I was at Garden City Community College and I wanted to transfer to West Virginia, and Coach Rod and Coach McGee was in there. They was excited. And I remember I asked one question before I got off the phone. I said, Coach Rod, I just have one question. He was like, what is it? I said, can I have number one? He said, you can have any number you want. And that's how I ended up at West Virginia.
Wow, that's a
Yeah.
great story.
Yep.
Great story. Now, tell us about that East Carolina game was not the only game you played in, obviously, there for a couple of years, and you played a lot of football. Talk about your time there with Coach Rod and the program, and what all that meant to you, and your accomplishments there were awesome. Talk a little bit about what your time at WU meant and your time with Coach Rod.
I tell kids, I talk to a lot of kids, and a lot of people always want to, kids these days always want to know about, the pros and things like that. But I just remember when I came on my visit, when I got off the plane and the drive from Pittsburgh to Morgantown. I remember, and it was the weekend they played Boston College, and it was snow on the ground and things like that. And I just remember making that ride through the mountains, and as we was getting closer to Morgantown, I just remember saying to myself, what did I get myself into? Like, oh my God. Why did I chill? Like, man, I spoke too soon. Why did I say I'm just looking at I'm like, oh. And let me tell you, once we got to Morgantown, I just remember coming up. It was the night before the game, like I said, and so how they prep they prep the day before. I saw all the campers out at the arena and things like that. So I was like, oh, this is a real college town. It reminds me of Gainesville, Florida. Like if West Virginia wasn't in Morgantown, you wouldn't even know about it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like Gainesville, Florida here. Gainesville, if it weren't for University of Florida, you'll drive right through it and wouldn't even know it was a city. But I just remember coming, man, and Coach Rod taking me out to meet some of the frat guys. There was used to be a frat house right across from the stadium, and they all knew who I was. And just when I saw the atmosphere and that game day and just being here, man, I tell everybody right now to this day, West Virginia was the greatest decision I ever made in my life. And I mean that. I mean, it's all my memories, my 2.5 years there. Man, I wish I could have been there for all four. But even in the pros, everything I've done in my life, I'll say the time I spent in Morgantown was the greatest decision I ever made in my life.
Wow, that's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
With so much negativity in the world and in Morgantown today, that's
Absolutely.
Nice to hear.
Absolutely.
Really nice to hear something like that. Your time in the pros. Tell us a little bit about that. I think everybody wants to know what's it like. What's it like being in the NFL, and what's it like, with those players and the guys you played with and played against. I want to go back to WVU here in just a minute, talk about some of your highlights there, but tell us about the pro situation.
Well, I gotta say this. I mean, I tell a lot of people this. The pros it's a business, it's a job. The toughest thing about it to me, just going through it for myself, great experience. I loved every bit of it. Kind of growing up playing sports, when I'm sure it's everyone, every guy in college, you come up through little league, high school, make it to college, you're the man, you're the big dog, you're the guy. And once you make it to the league, you start from like realizing that, hey, I'm not the guy, depending on, your status where you drafted and things like that. I didn't get drafted, I signed as a free agent. And for the first time in my life, I doubted myself a lot just because of not really getting I thought was a fair opportunity, having the people in front of you. And it's definitely one of them things where, hey, they're paying a guy $20 million and you're making the league minimum. Oh, he's going to get every chance in the world to mess up. You don't get a lot of chances, and you got to, you got to be able, when it's called upon you, you got to make a splash. So that's the biggest thing. But other than that, I always knew, from a young age, I wanted to play professional sport. I didn't care what it was, football, baseball, or basketball. I knew I would make it in one. Making it in the NFL is definitely a goal of mine. It was a dream, and I just wanted to. At one point, it became, I just want to make it to the NFL. I made it. And I was like, oh, I want to be on a trading card. Oh, I got that. Oh, I want a shoe deal. I had a Nike contract. So, like, all my dreams, of growing up about, playing professional sport, I got a chance to live them. The great thing about the pros, and it goes back to even in college, it's not about what you guys see on Sunday. My memories come from Monday through Saturday, that time in the locker room, the things that we do on and off the field, the relationships you have with the players and their families and their kids. that's the thing that you will always hold on forever and cherish the most. Um, the game itself is a job, it's a business. We all know that. Here and there. My rookie year in Miami, it was it was very memorable. It was Nick Saban's rookie year, and he came in thinking he can coach like he was in college, and a lot of guys didn't fly that way. A lot of those pros and veteran guys, they didn't like it. So it was tough. It was tough my rookie year, but it was definitely it became to a point to where I was like, okay, you know what? I'm not good enough to start to them, but I'm gonna make sure, damn sure, I'm too good enough for them to cut. And that's what it became. It became a game of survival. And I was able to do that for 4 years. Getting my opportunities to play on special teams a lot. The one thing I am proud of is amazing how things just happen. I caught my first NFL pass in a game from a Mountaineer, which was Mark Bolger when I was in St. Louis on Monday Night Football against the Rams. I mean, against the Bears. So like my first NFL catch came from a Mountaineer, and that's something I will always forget. I always cherish. I even got Mark gave me his jersey. I kept his jersey at the end of the season. I made sure I wanted to keep that. I have that. I gotta give him to sign it. But yeah, man. And getting the opportunity to play in New York on a Super Bowl team and have a Super Bowl run, man, was absolutely one of the most amazing things as well. That whole week just in Arizona and the time we spent, playing that season and playing the Patriots the last game of the season. That year they went undefeated and almost beating them, and then having to play them again in the playoff in the Super Bowl, and have Strahan and Justin Tuck make a comment to the media telling them they weren't even going to score 17 points, and just that. Oh man, it was a hell of a time, and that's something I would never forget. But it still doesn't come. That's second to Morgantown. I can promise you that. He's
Get,
muted.
get Mike fixed here. I've heard off. I've got dogs outside to keep interrupting me, want to talk to me. But that's awesome to hear that the Morgantown experience was still better. So let's talk
Oh yeah.
about some of those more memorable moments. Other than, of course, that one big, huge game. There were a lot of others as well. So why don't you reflect back on your days at WVU and some of the memorable moments you had?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, just my first year there, being my junior year, playing behind Quincy, gave me opportunity to learn on a bigger stage. As far as coming from junior college and things like that. The thing that helped me the most about being in Morgantown was just being a professional baseball player. It matured me a lot, so I was able to go into class and things like that wasn't a problem. That was the easy part. Like I said, you've been on 142 games, sleeping in Motel Sixes and things like that. It humbles you really quick. So coming to Morgantown and actually having a college life, that was the simple part to adjust to. The weather, the cold doesn't bother me, especially when you're playing. When you're playing, I don't care how cold it is, you sweat still, and things like that. So my first year there, junior year, getting an opportunity to play behind Quincy, man, and watch the things he did, and just to be there to back him up and things like that, man, it was wonderful. I mean, we can go through the schedule. You remember, you guys. I remember my breakout game was the Miami game down in Miami. Of course, the memorable game. All-purpose yards. I think I had like over 300 something all-purpose yards that game with kickoff returns and receiving the big long catch I had out of the backfield. Some runs there. It was actually at the time, I think it was the longest reception on a Miami Hurricanes defense. It was 87 yards. Got caught down in the 3 yard line by, God rest his soul, Sean Taylor at the time. And of course, everybody remembers Quincy's run, which was just excited to seeing Saquon Barkley jump over somebody backwards. That run that Quincy had, man, was jaw dropping. I just remember being speechless and getting the second time to watch it on the big screen when they replayed it. It was like, did he just do that? So definitely that, man, and just the Virginia Tech game my junior year when we upset them. I think they were number two in the nation, number three at that time. What were they?
They were highly ranked, two or three for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yep.
and scoring the first touchdown of that game on the opening drive, for me that game, and just that it was definitely a memorable season my first year. They coming into my senior year, like I said, coming into my senior year, knowing that I was going to be the guy the only regret I have, I don't really say it's a regret, but I do. It's always those moments where you just wish you could just go back and do something different. Like, man,
Yeah.
one play, one day, and to me, my whole senior year came down to one play, which was the second play of the game in Orlando against Central Florida. I'm gonna tell you, I was so excited to play that game because it was basically in my backyard, being only 58 miles away from my home in Tampa, in Orlando, Central Florida. Second play of the game, I get a zone to the left, and Coach McGee had this rule about not running out of bounds. As a running back, you turn it up, don't run out of bounds. And I made the decision to turn it up, but it was three defenders there, and they stood me up, and I pulled my hamstring, and that was kind of the thing that took me off my mark to have a hell of a season. Even after that first game of the season, um, that night was the longest night because I had to stay after the game and do all these interviews with ESPN and all the sports networks across the country, Fox Sports, and talking to Mel Kiper and all those guys, and having to come back to the stadium early Sunday morning to do more interviews just because of that type of game. So a lot of people want to talk about it, and and having Mel Kiper saying, "Hey, see you at the Heisman," and things like that. And it gets to your head. You kind of get excited about it. But after a game like that, who wouldn't?
Yeah.
So and getting a phone call from the president of the Senior Bowl and getting the first offer from anybody for that year to be the first one offered a spot on the Senior Bowl team. So in a way, it's kind of I got down on myself a little bit because I kind of felt like it was more I could have done. I wanted to do, and I got humbled by injuries. But other than that, man, that senior season, still it was a hell of a season. The Maryland, we finally got that monkey off our back when beating Maryland that game, with Chris Henry catching the touchdown in overtime to win that game. And, we all, I miss my brother, man, and God rest his soul as well. To see him go through the things he went through that year, he had a hell of a season, and arguing with buddy of mine, Mike Williams at the time, who was at USC. And I'm putting Chris Henry numbers up against him with half the catches, things like that. So, I mean, it's what a year. So yeah, man. And like I said, the only regret I had, man, is just being a little bit better shape, maybe more flexible, because hamstring injury just nagging me the whole season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got a comment there from Silas says, KJ, I don't know if you can see this or not, but I remember my first WVU game attended was watching you tear it up. Love the arms crossed TD celebration.
Yeah, that's it. And I got that, and I stole that from a guy in high school, man, my freshman year. In high school, the guy he used to do that, and I was like, man, I'm gonna do that. So I used to just, score, want to celebrate, just cross my arms, and
Nothing
things
to
like
it.
that. So yeah, that was my celebration, just the crossing of the arms. So
Hey, who's that sneaking in
Hey,
the back door?
there you go, Mickey.
Hey, Mickey, wouldn't you
How you doing?
wouldn't you agree? What a great guest this guy is.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. I tell you, I'm just sitting here just identifying with some of those stories that you're telling. Of course, I played 35 years before you did, KJ. I graduated in 69. But I certainly enjoyed watching you in your career. I'll never forget that performance you had against ECU. And
appreciate it.
just really enjoyed watching you, man. I'll tell you, and that Miami game, I remember that as well. Was that the game where Quincy just flat ass ran right over that
Yes, he
safety
did.
that
Yes,
they
he
keep
did.
showing on ESPN
Yeah,
even
Brandon
until
Merriweather.
today, right?
That was it. That was
That's
definitely
what a
it.
great moment in Mountaineer history, huh?
Yeah, he was
Absolutely.
an
And what a
All-American
contribution.
defensive back.
Yeah. Man, they had
Yeah,
7 guys on that defense going the first
Yeah.
round.
Yep.
What
Sure
you
did.
talking about? That
Sure
that
did.
defense alone could have played in the NFL already. And them college guys just alone. That defense was stacked, man.
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
Yep.
Jonathan Vilma, DJ Williams, Brandon Merriweather, Entrail Roll. I mean, you had Vince Wolford on the line. You had all those guys, man. Andrew Williams on the line. I mean, they had Vernon Carey, the offensive tackle, the first round pick. I played with him in Miami. Of course, Frank Gore. I mean, it just goes on and on. The first rounders they had from that team on offense and defense, the guys they had drafted, period,
Incredible.
just on that team, man. That half
Yeah.
that team, everybody on that team was drafted.
Yeah.
well, and one of the points you make there, I mean, really good point. And a lot of people who have not played the game, I don't think have an appreciation for what a thrill it is to be able to play against competition like that. Because
Absolutely.
you really look forward to it. You
It
look
brings the
forward
best out
against
of you.
competing against the
Yep.
best. and seeing if you can take them out or not. You know, we did the same thing back in '69. The only game we lost was to Penn State. And Penn State finished #1 in the country that year. They had 11 guys drafted. They had Franco Harris and Lydell Mitchell in the same backfield. So I know what you're talking about when you're talking about some high draft choices, man. And it gives you such a thrill as a player to go out and compete against somebody. It's just elite at the elite level, as you were when you played at West Virginia. I have one question for you. What was part of the decision-making process that led you out of Major League Baseball back into college football?
Like I said, I was sitting in the hotel room and watching ESPN and having the college previews, and they showed all the guys from Tampa who was going to start having breakout seasons. And I just remember saying, man, I played against a lot of those guys. And like I said, baseball wasn't really my first priority. And football wasn't my second. Like I said, it was more basketball. If the Lord would have blessed me to be 6'4", just 6'4", that's all I asked for. 6'4". If he would have blessed me to be 6'4", I would have entered the NBA draft out of high school. I'm telling you. What's funny is that a couple years ago when Zion Williamson came on the scene and everybody started talking about Zion, everybody here in Tampa, a lot of people just started sending me a message like, man, I just seen you in high school. I seen the high school version of you.
Wow.
And I tell my son all the time, I tell him, like, man, a lot of guys, they were like, man, you was Zion before Zion. And, he's 6'6". I just wish if I was 6'4", that's all I asked for, man. If I was 6'4", it would have been, you would have saw the second version of Zion, which is who he is now.
I always wish for 6'4", but that's just because I'm kind of short for my weight, so I need a few extra height inches. So.
Short for your weight.
Hey, Greg, we've got Hey, Greg and Mickey, we've got to ask KJ about you're getting on a plane on Friday. Can you talk about it a bit? What you're going to be doing this weekend?
Yeah, there's a 3-part documentary coming out with the Rich Rod era from 01 to 07, and I'm flying up to shoot and tell my story of my version of whatever's to be asked of me this weekend. So I'm excited about that, man. I also get to come up and see a good friend of mine and his son, who I actually coached in Little League with my son, Mike Trigg Jr. He's a receiver for Baylor, #1. So that's the reason why I chose to come up this game. So I can obviously get an opportunity to see him play as well. Like I said, the kid I coach, hell of a kid. He's a hell of a basketball player himself. But he's a big guy, receiver, man. And I'm just excited to see him get a chance to see him play against my alma mater. So I'm gonna be him talk smack with his dad. His dad owns a barbecue restaurant place here, and I'm gonna go see him tomorrow. He don't know yet that I'm coming up, but I'm gonna let him know I'm coming up, and I'm gonna probably try to bring him down on the field for warm-ups so he can see his son warm up.
That's awesome.
Hey, KJ, I'm en route myself. I'm over here picking up my son. We're taking off tomorrow from Morgantown. We're going to take a little stop in Fayetteville tomorrow night. But are you coming to the Varsity Club pregame tailgating party in the Coca-Cola tent?
I plan on. I probably got the email today, so I got to put my request in right now for my tickets, which is crazy. It's crazy how they make us do all this stuff now, man. And I'm like,
you should just be able to show up.
Yeah, just walk on, my face alone. My face alone is my name. Yeah, but now they make you do all this stuff, man. They make you do all this crazy stuff to come in there. And oh man, it's bad. I be like, man, it's Pat White is kind of upset about that. I don't know if you guys know. Pat White is very mad about how they treat people, how they treat former players now. How they come to the game. So we got to do something about that, man. It definitely got to be another way around of just having a little bit more respect for the guys who led the way.
Exactly.
We've actually heard. We've heard that.
I'll look you up in the tent. I'll meet you in person there Saturday afternoon. It starts at 2:00. Yeah, 2 to 4. They're running that thing.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Good.
Yeah, I think we've heard that from a few players, and I think
absolutely.
I think the AD is aware of it too, and they seem to be trying to take a few steps.
Yeah, and a lot of guys don't want to come back. A lot of guys are not wanting to come back because they said they just don't feel appreciated. They just get hackled and hassled, and they and mess with you. And you see people on the sideline and on the field is like, why they get to be there? Like, who are they? Like, why are they there? And things like that. If anything, West Virginia owe me a check. Now that they get NILs, I need some money. They owe me some money.
I heard today it only goes back to 2018, so I don't know.
16.
Hey, KJ, do you want to stay with us, or do we? Yeah. do you want to stay
fine.
with us when we talk about the Baylor game? That would be
Yeah, that's
great.
fine.
Yeah,
That's
That's
fine.
fantastic.
Heck yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when you told me that you were going to be going up, I didn't know where you were going. So you're going to be filmed in Morgantown? Is that where
Yeah,
they're
I'm
going
going
to be filming you?
my guy, yeah, he said we had a place rented out in Cheat Lake. We're gonna set up, do the interview. So I'll be doing, I don't know. He gave me the time that we're gonna do it, but I know we're gonna be at a house in Cheat Lake, shooting over there.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'll get
That's
more
great.
information on it probably tomorrow and Friday before I leave.
Awesome.
You're going to
Great.
be out and
Super,
about
super
Friday
cool.
night?
Absolutely.
Well, I'll tell you what. Once you come down to Kegler's, I'll buy you a Coca-Cola.
No, you can buy me you can buy me a beer. Come on, man.
How about a shot of bourbon? How
Yeah,
about a
we can
shot
do
of
that.
bourbon?
There we go. There we go. We can do that.
Now we're
That's
talking.
what I'm talking
I'll
about.
bring some Bullock's bourbon with me from Charlotte.
Hey,
Oh, yeah.
that's it. Now we're talking. No shot. You can
Yeah,
buy me
that's
no Coke. I don't want no
And
Coke.
Frank, I know how these big time producers feel. You know, when they lose their show a little bit, gets a little
Lose
bit out of
control.
line. Here we go.
No,
Soon as
that's
Mickey
okay.
gets
I'll
here.
catch up to you Friday night.
That's okay. That's okay. That's okay. We're having a ball.
Right.
What we do every week, KJ, is that we talk about keys to the game, and
Okay.
also we make our score predictions. And I'm going to throw that up, and you jump in here too. You may or may not agree with us. Now we also make score predictions, but it's not fair. Mickey makes his predictions on Sunday morning, and so he's beating the crap out of us.
He gets it right every time.
But
There you go, Mickey.
Tell the
let
truth,
me see.
Frank.
Yeah, but here's the profile on Baylor, and one of the things that's interesting about this team is it's now starting to hit on all cylinders. They've won 3 in a row, and Coach Brown said they may be playing the best ball in the Big 12. And boy, it would be difficult for me to say, well, I don't understand what he's saying. And so you look at the key players there. None of these guys really stand out, except they've got a hell of a receiving core. And the thing that is amazing about this Josh Cameron, I'll tell you what, take a deep breath. Based on what happened last year down there in Waco, he's number 2 in the country in punt returns, averaging 21 yards a game. That he is excellent, and his sidekick Jamal Bill is number 13 in the country in kickoff returns. And what did they have? 2 against us last year? So that's something we got to be really concerned about. And with our defense being banged up, particularly the back end, those receivers, 3 wideouts and a tight end, are going to be, and Trigg is the tight end. He's a transfer. They totaled 1,400 yards.
He's a tight end, but they line him out. They line him up as a wide receiver a lot. He's he's a receiver tight end. I can tell you that right now. But he is a very big kid. Trust me, I know him from the time he was born to where he's at right now, and he's a hell of an athlete, man. And watch out for him.
How would you compare him to Cole Taylor?
Oh man.
Triggin's in a league of his own, man. Once you see him in person, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. He's a big dude. I'm telling you, man.
Is he bigger than Cole? He's bigger than Cole Taylor?
Yeah,
that's pretty big.
The guy from Arizona? No, that's not Cole. I'm sorry. You got to see him. Trig look like DK Metcalf. He's big.
Okay.
He's big like that. He's a big boy. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
he's a big boy, and he can jump out the gym too. I'm surprised he didn't get a double scholarship to play. He had a lot of basketball scholarships himself, man. You go back and you can look him up on YouTube. You go back and look Mike Trigg high school YouTube tapes, and you'll see him. He handles the ball and come down the court, man, and just jumps over everybody and just throws it down on the head. So he's a hell of an athlete. He's definitely a hell of an athlete.
Yeah. Well, as we put up these keys to the game, Greg, that number 2 that you have up there, that's a key. Talk about that a bit in terms of you gotta pressure Robertson so he doesn't have time to throw. You gotta unmute yourself there.
Yeah, if you look at his statistics and his passing percentages, completion percentages, if you give him time to stand back there, like most quarterbacks, but he's exceptionally good at it. He's going to pick you apart. And just like KJ said with the receivers, got people who can catch the ball, people that are hard to cover. And I think each week that we've played, that's been one of my keys is we got to get pressure on that quarterback. The only way our defensive back can survive is if we're flushing these people out of the pocket, making a move. I think we did that against Cincinnati. We created a couple of turnovers in the Cincinnati game with that pressure. So I think it's imperative that we get pressure on him, not just to help our defensive backs, but make this guy uncomfortable because he's a good quarterback, and when he's got time to stand by back there and do his checkdowns, he's pretty efficient.
I think even with that though, I think we got to be careful when he gets out of the pocket and we put pressure on him. He's running out of the pocket because his receivers are talented enough. He's one of them guys. If he throws a 50-50 ball, they're coming down with it probably 100% of the time. He has some big receivers who are athletic who can get up and get the ball. So pressuring him out of the pocket and making him scramble could probably hurt us a lot too, because like I said, he has very athletic receivers and they probably will make more plays being flushed out of the pocket than they do in the pocket. It's hard to cover for, it's hard to cover for more than 5 or 6 seconds. So, of course, when that scramble drill happens, that's when the holding comes, when those guys change their route to come back to the ball and guys start grabbing and pulling, and things like that. So we got to be careful on that end too.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily mean with pressure flushing him out. I just mean pressure on him.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm saying so he can't get real comfortable.
I think a pressure definitely to come in with holding him in the pocket compared to more flushing him out of the pocket and let him run, side to sideline.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I agree 100%.
Yeah. Hey, Mickey, I was going to ask you. I just looked at the over and under. It's 58. I thought that was a little bit low. You think this is going to be a high-scoring game? Why don't you talk about that?
Well, these two teams, it's neck and neck. It's pick 'em. I mean, they're so evenly matched when you look at all the statistics. And if you look at back in, then and now comparison, Frank, as you and I were talking the other day, West Virginia is actually 6-0 at home against Baylor, which leads me to give them the nod on this one. I think turnovers are going to decide the game, and I think that the kicking game may have something to do with it. It's always been a high-scoring game between these two teams. I was at the game when Geno Smith threw 8 touchdown passes and threw for 656 yards. There was over 1,500 yards of offense between the two teams that night, and we ended up winning 70-63. Probably the most fantastic college football game I've ever personally witnessed. But I'm looking for another high-scoring – huh?
Say offensive football game because both of the teams left their defenses on the bus.
That's right. Both defenses are somewhat lacking. So, whoever scores the most is going to win this thing. And Frank, I think you took a little literary talent here. I did want to go on record that I am predicting an overtime matchup with West Virginia winning on a field goal in overtime.
Ooh,
that's okay. Right. Yeah, I forgot that.
Predicting the first overtime game of the year. Of course, with my stellar record of 6.5 wins out of 9 contests, you can put a lot of credence in that overtime prediction I'm making. And we win by a field goal, 47-44.
Hey, we got a question here from WVU fan 23, who's a hell of a lot better than WVU fan 20. I've always sided with fan 23. Which one of our quarterbacks do you think will start for us? GG gives us another dimension with his legs, but I feel like Nico may be the better passer. What do you guys think about that? KJ, what do you think?
Ooh, I agree with Nico might be the better passer, but we might need. That's a good one, man. It's a toss up. But like you said, we're 6-0 at home. I kind of wish it was later on in November because of the weather. We can have an extra man with the weather. It's going to be fairly. I looked at the weather myself to see how I'm unpacking. I'm like, oh man, it's going to be kind of warm. So that weather definitely plays a big part of our failure Baylor being down south. But that's the toss up, man. Just depends. It's one of them games where you got to see how it feels out the first, in the first couple of possessions on the first quarter, first half, and just and see what type of game it end up being.
Mm-hmm. Well, these guys know how I feel. I'd like to see them both in at the same time, which may not be feasible, or that may be romantic. Could they, with a week practice, less than that, Could they do that, do you think? Use Gigi as a flanker?
Sure they can. Frank, they definitely could. I'd love to see Neil Brown do that. What a surprise that would be if, in fact, it did happen. But it can be done if you have a week or two to work on it. I mean, what a double threat that would be if we had them both in the game at the same time.
Yeah, I'm sure they're not practicing for nothing like that. That's something you definitely got to be prepared on it. You never know if double pass or something like that's coming. So I mean, we all know Green's a hell of a runner as well. He's like he's another running back when he's not throwing it. He's definitely another running back on the field. So, I would love to see both of them in the game too and see how their defense react. Even if he's them as a decoy.
Quarterback, Nico a quarterback, and Gigi playing in the slot receiver position. Yeah, that would be a threat.
Yeah.
You could do reverses. You could do double reverses. Yeah. I'm sorry, Frank. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
I was just saying you can run reverses, double reverses, passes off a double reverse. The possibilities would be endless.
I agree.
So that would be something if they did that.
At this point, you got nothing to lose. Might as well try it all.
That's right. Why not?
Yeah. What do you think? Yeah. What do you think, Greg? What do you think they're going to do at quarterback? And I'll take this thing off.
I'll just say, you guys need to. If you ever heard the old adage, you got two quarterbacks, you don't have any. But I'm not going to say that because I think we got two quarterbacks that are equally talented and do different things well. I think, and this is just my opinion, and this is nothing against Garrett Green, but I think, Nico's 2-0. You stick with him. He's winning. You stick with him. If it goes south, then you got to, obviously a formidable backup right there to put in for him. And I'm not opposed to seeing them both on the field at the same time too. I think that adds another wrinkle that Baylor defense will have to worry about.
Yep.
Throw him out there and maybe get him on that end around and let him have a pass run option or whatever the case may be. But I don't see anything wrong with throw. I mean, he's a good athlete. Use him. And at this point, we have nothing to lose. Like KJ said, we have nothing to lose at this point. And why not give it a try? If you think that's something that can help your team, go for it. I don't know, Neil Brown, and we've talked about this numerous times, that he's a pretty loyal guy and doesn't like the idea of someone losing their spot due to an injury. But I think when the quarterback comes in and gives you 2 wins back-to-back weeks, I think you have to seriously consider keeping him out on the field to begin with anyway, just to see how it's going, because he's pretty solid. He's no shaky backup. Mickey, go ahead. I mean to run over you.
Yeah, I just want to, 2 things. Do you recall when the Mountaineers had the transfer through the portal from Georgia that came down, and he wasn't doing very well. So toward the end of the season, they replaced him with 4 games to go to get him ready for the next year. And I can see the same thing happening with Nico, finishing out the season to get him better prepared for next year. But the thing I'm most concerned about, I've heard some rumors, and it's been very quiet. I haven't seen anything about social media about it, but I've heard some rumors that Garrett might actually be suffering from multiple concussions. And that's the real reason why he's been held out of some of these games. It's not an upper chest injury. And it's just a rumor I've heard. I don't know if it's founded or not, but if that's the case, you're certainly not going to put his health in jeopardy by putting him back in.
Yeah.
I hope that's not the case. I hope he's 100% ready to go.
Yeah. Well, he threw last week. We know that from Coach Brown, and he practiced on Monday. He talked about it at Monday's presser and said, by Wednesday, we'll know. And today's Wednesday. But, hey, Mickey, you asked me if I would get the tape of the Baylor 2012 game. You weren't here to see the replay of KJ's 204, but I hate to,
204.
It took, year 2004.
Okay,
Yeah, 2004.
He's saying you're talking about yards. You go like, wait a minute, back that up.
Yeah, no, but
Do you have tape of the 2012 game?
Yeah, it took me. I'll tell you what, it took me a
Thanks.
long time to find it. It's inaccessible. I paid $10,000 for this tape. And then I had just to rent it. It's just to rent it tonight. No, here it is. What, you watch these guys, KJ.
What a game.
Yeah.
You and these guys cut of the same fabric. I mean, let's watch it here. What a game that 2012 game was. It's coming up right now.
Wow.
Geno Smith and West Virginia making their Big 12 debut hosting Baylor, and this one was a shootout. 33 seconds left in the half. Tied at 28. Smith finds Stedman Bailey, who makes a nice catch in the corner of the end zone for a 2-yard score. Smith, 4 passing TDs, 2 incompletions in the first half. Next Baylor drive, final seconds before the break, and Nick Florence finds Lanier Sampson, who speeds away from 3 defenders, a 67-yard touchdown to end the half. First time since 2004, where both teams had 35 points at the break. Early third quarter, still tied. Smith throws quick over the middle to Tavon Austin, who shakes off a tackle and heads off to the races. A 45-yard touchdown. Austin had 14 catches for 215 yards and 2 TDs. Late third quarter, Florence fires deep to Terrence Williams, who leaps in the end zone for a 37-yard score. Williams with a Big 12 record, 314 yards receiving to go with his 2 TDs. Early fourth quarter, Smith finds Bailey, who's behind the defense, and Bailey runs down the far sidelines for an 87-yard touchdown, part of 5 touchdowns and 303 yards receiving for Bailey. But the star of the game was Geno Smith. With his 8th touchdown pass here, a Big 12 record. He threw for 656 yards too, as West Virginia wins 70-63 in their Big 12 conference debut.
More like a basketball score. And I want to say this one thing.
Incredible.
If you look at that video again, you watch the pass right before halftime, quarterback was over the line of scrimmage. That shouldn't even count.
Yeah.
Both defensive coordinators should have been fired after the
Oh,
game.
God.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey,
Fine.
I want to mention one thing here.
Yeah,
KJ, that pose you would take when you scored with the folded arms?
Yes, sir.
I got a story for you about that pose.
Okay.
In 2012, the Mountaineers just joined the Big 12 for the first time.
Right.
Now, we have an alumni chapter. We have an alumni chapter down in Atlanta, pretty active.
Mhm.
And we invited all the other teams in the Big 12 who had alumni chapters in Atlanta to come out for a social meeting. And we had Baylor show up. They had an alumni chapter in Atlanta. Texas had an alumni chapter. Texas Tech had a chapter. So we had all these different alumni chapters against our competitors that we're playing against for the first time. So we found a picture of Stedman Bailey, Geno, and the third guy,
Tavon.
Tavon?
Tavon Austin. We found this picture of the 3 of them standing by an airplane, and all 3 of them had their arms crossed together, and they had on the old World War II brown helmets with the goggles up on top of them. All 3 of them standing there with their arms folded, and the caption underneath the picture just said WVU Air Raid.
Yeah.
And we made copies of that and passed it out to every chapter that showed up that night and said, you guys better be ready because we're coming for you.
Oh, yeah,
And boy, did Geno come through that day.
It was definitely the version of the greatest show on turf, boy, from the Rams, boy, that with them there. It definitely was.
Oh, yeah. And now what a great job he's doing for Seattle, huh? Comeback player of the year last year.
Yeah. That was the track team that year. That wasn't no football team. That was the track team.
Oh, yeah.
That was a relay team, and Geno was throwing the baton.
Exactly right.
Yeah. So,
I think it goes to show just how in NFL, it's right place, right time, because Geno Smith
absolutely.
coming out of college was a fantastic quarterback.
Yep.
He just never was in a good situation with the Jets.
So a lot of guys. You have a lot of guys that are in the college, man, who you just, you see them light it up in college. You're like, oh man, they're gonna tear it up in the league. And they started out slow for him, definitely. I mean, I just go back, man. I was remember Peter Ward.
Oh yeah.
Remember, I just
yeah.
I just thought Peter Ward was going to play 15 years in the league and still do those things that he was doing when he was in college. And some of them. I mean, think of all the receivers that Detroit drafted before Megatron.
Yeah.
But those guys who came from Michigan State, the big one, Charles Rogers or whatever his name was, I think that was his name, and
Yep.
Roy Williams and stuff like that from Texas. It's just a lot of those guys, man. You see in college who just, I mean, even I want to see Tavon do a little bit more in the NFL, man. It was I just think he wasn't in the right system.
Yep.
Yeah,
I think that's a big thing. Yeah, it's just in the right place. You got to get in that place because I think we all knew what kind of quarterback Geno Smith could be.
Yep.
And it just took getting him in the right spot to have a chance to show
and having patience with him and having patience.
Right. I feel the same way about Will Greer. I think Will Greer could make a
good yeah.
Just go, just got the right place and right time and all those type of things. But yeah, that happens.
Another guy, Amos Arroway. I always thought Amos Arroway would really excel in the pros, and he just never was in the right place at the right time.
Well, Amos went to the Steelers, man. Steelers like to run the ball between the tackles. You can't put all those little guys in between the tackles all the time, man. Amos was, I kind of wish, like I said, I wish I would have made a different decision when I was coming out. I chose Miami. I should have went to Green Bay. Edgar Bennett wanted me, and the first thing he said to me was, "You're here for November. You're here for November to December when it's 20 minus degrees outside, and nobody wants to tackle nobody 240 pounds coming downhill in November in Green Bay." And my thought was, hey, ain't nothing to do in Green Bay. So it's one of them. It's one of them. I wish I would have done different moments. And they flew me out there twice before the draft, and so that should have been. And my whole thing was there's nothing to do in Green Bay. I didn't make a football decision. I made a other decision. And so when it comes to think about it, and he told me
the point you just made about running between the tackles. I am so proud of Zach Frazier. Mm-hmm. And the job that he's done as a rookie for the Steelers. Mm-hmm. He started the first 5 or 6 games, and then the guy's place he took healed up his shoulder, and he got back in there. But last Sunday, I don't know if you guys saw it or not, Zach was back in there. Right. And when that running back scored, he gave Zach the ball and let Zach spike it. Did you see that?
I saw it. Yep.
Yeah, he gave the ball to Zach, and Zach just spiked the heck out of that thing. But it was so good. As an ex-offensive lineman, you never, ever get to see that.
Yeah. Zach is in the right place, man. Could come November, December. We all know Mike Tomlin is going to put that ball in Najee Harris' hands and run downhill. And that's one thing. That's one thing he's going to do. And Zach is built for that weather, man. That's his backyard. So he's definitely going to. He's going to see. You're going to see the best yet is not even come for him yet. You're going to see. So.
Yep.
Zach Frazier will be there 10, 12, 15 years playing center for him.
Easy.
What a monster. What a great player he is.
Pittsburgh always keep this
Beanie Bishop.
Yeah.
How about Beanie Bishop?
Yep. It's a lot of them, There's a lot of them.
Walk on.
Yep.
NFL defensive rookie of the week 2 weeks ago.
Exactly.
He had 3 picks against Dallas. No, 2 picks against Dallas. Excuse me.
Dallas just sucks.
Not telling you about football.
Tickles me because I got a lot of friends that are Dallas. I guess so. Tired of hearing how about them Cowboys. I get sick of that.
Man.
And of course, I can't ever say anything because I'm a Browns fan. So I got no rooting rights.
You want to know who my favorite player of all time? Since you're a Browns fan, take a guess.
Jim Brown.
Nope.
A little too old. Leroy Kelly.
Nope.
Still too old.
Vinny Testaverde.
Hell no. definitely not a quarterback.
I was trying to think of running backs, and then we had 2, Ernest Biner and what was the other guy's name?
Ernest Biner. It wasn't Ernest Biner.
He was an everything back for them.
Terry Metcalf.
Eric Metcalf.
Eric Metcalf. I knew
That's my
Terry was his dad, right?
Yep. I wore 21 and 2 in middle school and high school because of Eric Metcalf.
Oh, he was something else, man.
Yeah, that was my favorite player, man. And you know why? Because in middle school, my coach said, "Man, you return the ball like Eric Metcalf." And at the time when he said that to me, and when he said that, I started following him. I said, "Yeah, I like this dude." And the fact that he did it all and he
Oh,
did
yeah.
everything, I was like, "Yeah, I like him." So
Yeah.
he became my favorite player. Yep, 1993.
Yeah, he was something else, man. He's something else. Well, that's
Eric
good to hear.
Metcalf.
And I always tease my friends. I always tell them, I said, "You guys, it's the only NFL franchise I know. Only the fans, grown men. I say grown ass men is what I tell them. Grown ass men wearing Dallas Cowboy jerseys." I said, I get tired of seeing that. I said, y'all the only ones that do that. The rest of us, I've never had a jersey on in my life other than when I played high school football. I ain't never had no jersey on. I said,
That's right.
Dallas
Cowboy.
Cowboys, grown
Yeah.
men wear jerseys
Oh
and,
man,
and their hats
Yeah.
backwards.
yeah, crazy.
So I have to razz them a little bit, especially when they suck like they do this year. I really give it to them this year.
Oh yeah,
That's it.
this year you can do it every year. We talking about this year. You can do it every year.
Yeah, I know, man.
Yeah.
They haven't been good for a while.
Yeah.
So, man, I'll tell you what, this has been awesome, KJ. I can't tell you how much we appreciate this, and so much fun to listen to you tell these stories and look back into the glory days. Real quick before we go, though, I do want to ask one more question before we get off here. A lot of people are asking, what are you up to these days? What'd you do, after the NFL ended? You come back to the real world. What'd you do from that point on?
I retired. When I retired in 2009, I came home. I sat around for a couple of years, man, and got back out of with my kids' life being gone, been part of PTA at school and carpooling and things like that, man, and just getting back into the swing with my kids and started coaching them in the sports. And then my first job back from playing football, I was at FedEx for 7 years, operation manager there. And I left there 2 years ago, and now I'm the warehouse manager for this family-owned business called Hearst Hardwoods. So and I got an opportunity to hire my son, and my son works with me. So for the last 2 years, man, the best time of my last 2 years, man, is I get to go to work with my son.
That's awesome.
So I'm loving that right now, man, and that's all, man. Just traveling. My daughter graduated from college from FAU. She ran track. She's a flight attendant from Delta right now. She's about to get into the pilot program. So of course, I'm getting the opportunity to fly across the country everywhere where I want to go, man, for free.
Yeah.
So I'm absolutely loving it right now, man. So I spend a lot of time right now when I'm not doing this right now. You guys I've been with you guys now for what, a little over an hour now.
Yep.
Yeah, for one for this, I'd be on Call of Duty right now. So a lot of PlayStation time in right now.
Frank had the video game, by the way.
Yeah, I'm the video game king. I love it, man. I always say, it beats the streets. I always say, at least you know where I'm at. I'm in the garage in my man cave, man. I'm playing that Call of Duty and NBA 2K thing. Yeah, that's me. I'm a gamer, and I don't care how old I am. I will be in game. I'm that guy still to this day. When the new game systems come out, I'm first in line because I camp outside. I'm not ashamed to admit it. And I have to buy 3 because I have twin boys and we don't share.
Oh, my goodness.
So yes. So
my youngest is always trying to get me to play, and he'll want to get me to play basketball, and I'll get on there with him, and he'll beat me like 85-0, and I can't
I'm sure.
My man's over in the corner just
in
running.
The stands.
Get him out of there.
Yeah, man.
That's how good of a gamer I am.
You got to get them fingers right, man. I'm a gamer. I am a gamer.
Awesome stuff. KJ Aguil, can't tell you how much we appreciate it, man. Great stories. Great to hear all these stories. Looking back on your time at WVU and your time in the NFL has been really exciting for us. And I know,
absolutely.
I know our viewers really do appreciate it. And I'm sure you hope you and Mickey get hooked up this weekend. We can hear all about that.
Buddy, Mickey, I'm looking for that drink. Mickey, I want that shot.
There you go.
Let me get that bourbon, Mickey.
I'll be. As a matter of fact, we have a sponsor, KJ. We have a sponsor on the show, a guy who started a distillery down in Charleston, makes great bourbon. I just happened to bring a bottle with me on this trip, so you got to do a little taste testing.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do
I'll
it.
be at Kegler's. My son and I will be at Kegler's Friday night, or we'll be at that spot out there by the lake that's become real popular. I've forgotten the name of it, but if you're out there near the lake, there's a place out there a lot of people go to on Friday nights before games now.
Okay. Yeah, I think I get in around about 9 to Pittsburgh. So by the time I drive down, I'll probably be around about 11 by the time I get there. So you might be asleep by the time I get there.
No way, I'll just be getting started, man.
There you go, Mickey. That's what I'm talking about, buddy. That's what I'm talking about. But I
Hey,
definitely,
when you're 70, KJ, when you're 76 years old and you're starting the fourth quarter of your life, you can't let any grass
Yep.
grow under your feet.
I agree with you 100%, man. I tell them I got time. Hey, I sleep when I die. That's what I always tell them.
I'll sleep then.
Yep.
That's it.
Hey,
Fellas,
great
it's been
having you on
great,
the
man.
show. Sorry I was late, man.
No
Atlanta
problem.
traffic, but I'll catch up to you this weekend.
All righty. I appreciate you guys.
All right.
Thank you for having me, man. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed every bit of it.
Absolutely. We appreciate everybody
Oh,
for tuning in tonight. We appreciate
we
all three of
loved
you
it.
guys, Frank. Yep. Thanks for keeping everything organized and together and produced as you always do. We appreciate that. All the viewers, we thank you for tuning in. We look forward to coming to you Saturday on our pregame show. I think the game, Frank, has been slated for 4:00. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's correct.
Okay. So
4
I guess,
p.m. start.
okay.
So
So our pregame, I guess we'll start
we'll be on about 2:30.
2:33. Yep. 2:30 for the pregame.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we'll do the postgame show afterwards. So you can stick around and chime in on that as well. But again, we thank everybody for being with us tonight. We look forward to coming to you again Saturday. Have a great night, everybody. And thank you again, KJ Harris. Let's go Mountaineers.
That's it. Thank you.
It's a great night to be a Mountaineer, no matter
Wherever
where
you
you
are.
may
Right.
be.
That's it. All right.
Well, we're having a little technical difficulty, guys, getting us off, but I think
Do
we
we
can
need to
do it.
start?